In January of 2000, something awesome in our hobby happened. The Board Game Geek was created. There's only ever been 8 games that have been ranked number 1. And I'm guessing that you probably don't even know what the very first number 1 ranked game was. Find out on Legendary Tactics.
So there's only been 8.
That's right, absolutely. It's a very limited and select few.
Yeah.
And there's only 6 games that we have that uniquely have been to the number 2 spot but didn't make it to the number 1 spot.
Okay.
So can you tell us what those are, Nato?
All right. So starting with the most recent one, Through the Ages, never got to number 1.
2016,
It's number 2,
that one hit.
2016.
It was a fun game.
Terra Mystica in 2014.
One of your favorites.
Yes, no, it's a great game as well. The third one here is Power Grid, September 26, 2009. So it's 16 years ago now. Kalis in 2005 got to number 2.
Still haven't played that one.
Yeah. Hammer of the Scots.
It's on our to-do list.
Yeah, that one's a block game, I think. February of 2003. And then we have Die Macher in 2001.
Nice German pronunciation there.
I did my
so
best.
good, so good.
We want to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Noble Knight Games. If you are interested in picking up any of these classic games you see today, why not click the link below? And now, Nato.
The number 1 game that has been in had a lock on that spot on the Board Game Geek website is Brass Birmingham. Since February 18th, 2023, it has held that spot. Brass Birmingham, if you haven't tried it, it's kind of I guess you would call it a Euro, and it's taking place in the Industrial Revolution, and you're building out your networks to ship coal and products around to the ports across the board, and you're using iron and coal and beer and stuff to basically build up a great network, a great economic network. It's a really neat game. There's a lot of depth to it, and
it's been holding that spot for a while now.
Been there a little while, and I really enjoy it.
And I don't get it. I personally don't love the game, and I don't know why it's number 1. But if you do, let us know.
I like it. I think it deserves to be
yes.
there.
Well, you made a great strategy guide on the game too. So
with
that's cool.
A good friend of the channel. So yes, but I think it's a great game, and I think it earns its spot as number 1.
So moving along, we moved to December of 2017, and that was Gloomhaven. Now we do have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Line here, smaller box, a little easier to.
Let's be real. He brings it to the studio every time, and he gets sick of hucking around the huge box.
Monster box. We went with a lighter junior version.
You can get the point across with this one.
But this was just a revolutionary game at the time. With it, just as far as Childress was able to build out the Gloomhaven universe. All the characters, there were some really neat those little boxes that you had, your mystery components, and
the mechanics of your deck,
the
slowly
scenario size,
whittling down, your options and so forth.
I am not surprised that this game jumped. It got there reasonably quickly, and it stayed there for a good chunk of time. And I think it deserved that spot because no one had seen anything like this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well deserved.
Next up, we have a game that rushed to the top of the list in a span of about 2 months, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. And we'd seen iterations of Legacy games like Risk, but this one was the first one that really blew up and took off. 2 months to get to the top of the list. Some of these games, they took 5, 6, 7 years to get there. This one did it so quickly, and I'm not surprised because people were playing this and just devouring it. And this was one of the first ones where you were ripping up cards and changing the physical copy of your game, and that was a taboo. It was just like, oh, you can't do that.
It was very hard to do for me. When you told me to rip the card up, I was like,
weird.
What?
It felt strange.
Are you insane?
But it made its mark, and I think it really deserves its spot at the number 1 in 2016.
Yeah, incredibly innovative.
Absolutely.
Great game.
Okay.
Great game.
And next up is a favorite of mine. On December 9th, 2010, Twilight Struggle made it to the number 1 spot, where it sat until January 1st of 2016. So pretty much 6 years, or 5 and a bit years, it was at the number 1 spot.
And that's crazy for this game because it's not your typical mass market. It's not easy to learn. It's only 2 players.
Yep.
So tell me, why do you think it deserved to be there? And why did it make it there?
Honestly, for me, it's always been about the gameplay and the tension that it creates. It is a very stressful game to play, especially if you really want to win. If you want to have those bragging rights or you have money on it or whatever, it is just so tense. There's so much back and forth. All the cards and their effects are all interlaced, and the rules for coups and everything are just, everything's just builds up this tension.
Well, there's
And I think
nothing
that's what it
calm
is.
and soothing about the Cold War,
No.
so that's apropos.
Yes, and I think thematically, it really makes you feel like the U.S. and the Soviet Union felt, where either side could accidentally blow up the world, but you're vying for control. Anyway, just a really classic theme.
NATO, our games of Twilight Struggle reignited a certain passion for wargaming when we played this, because this game had those tensions to the extreme, and when we played, and it just really reignited a new love of wargaming when we played it. So
And
this
absolutely.
all
So
of these games that have made it to number one seem to have done that for a group of gamers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we moved to August of 2008, and Agricola topped the scales here. And we have we did I played a lot of Agricola in its earlier years. Just a really challenging game to play as far as like decision making, and you're building out your civilization from scratch. You have to make very tough choices on
Very tough.
what
Starve your family?
or feed the horse.
Yeah, exactly.
It is like feed the cows. It is punishing. But it found some great favor, and there's a certain feeling of success when you can actually push through all that hardship and actually create something there at the end. So
It's interesting because now I would say the market is saturated with games that are sort of agriculturally themed and building these little mini empires. But at the time, 2008,
2008.
the market wasn't completely
No.
overridden with this. So I think Rosenberg was one of the ones who ushered in this era or age of these Euro type games that were about resource development. And,
Yeah.
Growth. Very.
Okay.
In June of 2002, the game that reignited my passion for board gaming came along, and that is Puerto Rico. So this is the one, just like Twilight Struggle did for you guys, this one just felt the perfect game at the perfect time. I had a friend introduce it to me, and the idea of that new mechanism where you choose a power that benefits everybody a little bit and you a little bit more, it just felt like you were getting minor edges, and they accumulated over the game. And though I'm not a Euro gamer, this game sold me completely. It was just the coolest game, and I'm so glad it made it on the list, and that I got to play it when I did.
And it was there a fair amount of time, too.
I think this is one of the longest too.
Yeah.
It was, about 6 years.
A little bit longer than Twilight Struggle.
Just a hair longer.
Yeah.
So well earned, Puerto Rico. Good job.
Great game.
Congratulations, buddy.
Congratulations, little buddy.
Awesome. We've only got 2 more games on the list.
Yes,
though.
but one of them we do not have in studio.
No.
No, we don't. And it was in December of 2001, and that was Tigris and Euphrates, the classic game by Reiner Knizia.
Yes.
The doctor.
The doctor himself, yes. And so Tigris and Euphrates, I've never owned the hard copy, and I don't think either of you two have either.
I haven't played it. No.
No, I had a version of it. I'm not even sure if it's still available. It was on an old iPad, and I played a bunch of it. And it's neat. It's kind of neat. You're kind of building out your civilization. You're having conflicts with other players, and you're trying to
Ancient Egypt. Yep.
And you're building these temples if you get the tiles in kind of the right combination, which gives you kind of passive income. The one thing that I really like about this game is that you score in 4 different colors, but your score is the lowest of those 4. So you have to build them all up evenly. You could dominate in 2 of them, but if your one color is at 0, then guess what? Your score is 0.
Oh, interesting.
So it was neat because you couldn't just go for one color. You had to have a really balanced approach. And that's what I think really made the game sing. I think it was a really neat mechanism.
Really cool.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right.
So that brings us to the very first game that ever topped the list. And we have to give this one to you, Nato, because you own the game.
I own it.
And I think you like this game.
I do.
So
I do.
What is it?
So again, you can pause the video here, see if you can guess which game it was the very, very first game to hit number 1. I bet you can't guess it. It is Paths of Glory.
Oh, wow.
By GMT Games, designer Ted Racer. This is a World War I epic strategic game where players are essentially recreating the whole war. It has it's very much kind of its time, and it actually uses that idea very similar to Twilight Struggle, where you can kind of choose between operations points and events. It has a couple of other things the cards can do, but really, really neat game. It has been criticized for being not necessarily as historical as it could be, but just in terms of conveying the themes of the First World War and being very playable. The rule book is a little bit long, but once you actually get into it, it's actually not that hard to play.
I was noticing that, almost 40 pages.
Yeah, but it honestly, that's a bit deceptive, because once you actually get playing it, it's actually just the complexity comes from the gameplay really more than the actual
Interesting.
The rules themselves. So
Wow, that is dense.
it is a little bit dense, which is surprising. It made it to number one.
Is this
at that
sad
stage
for you, because this is a war game? It's a hex and counter game. Do you think we'll ever see a game like this on the BGG's number one ever
never
again?
again.
No, it was a
That
one-off
era
because
This is a one-off. Yes,
bygone.
this is a old-fashioned point-to-point type of game, like Washington's War, We the People, For the People, that kind of thing. We won't see a game like this at number one ever again. But for a brief time,
It was there.
Held the spot.
and it is a game deserving of that respect.
Absolutely. So let us know, what game do you think would be deserving of holding that number one spot? If you could choose one to get on this list, which one would it be? Now get out there.
Get gaming
And
be
legendary.